I came to the riverbank this morning with a plan. The page was already pre-prepared, layers of colours underneath. In fact, some pretty bright passages there, just waiting to pop out of this painting. The idea was to come in with charcoal over the top of it and rub back with an eraser to reveal those pops of colour. And that was my starting point. I had a pretty good composition where the bank sweeps around a corner, so that was pretty strong, and I had a big stick of charcoal, but that stick of charcoal wouldn't cooperate. The pre-prepared surface resisted it, and the marks stayed much lighter than I needed, and the charcoal slid rather than settled, and it wasn't really working. It gave me a few easy marks. It helped me set the composition and plot things before I committed with any other colours, so it was useful in that respect. But in terms of my intention to apply charcoal and rub away to reveal colour, it wasn't working. And then throughout trying and applying this, I got interrupted several times, people passing by saying hello, and there was one figure that stopped me, and it was a photographer who was sat so still on the bank watching the swifts on the water that he was so absorbed, so quiet, he kind of dissolved into the greenery, and he was becoming part of the bank rather than a person sat on top of it. And just like that, my intention changed. It was no longer about the light dancing on the water, it was about him. Now, this doesn't necessarily fit into our Wind in the Willows gathering information for our concertina, or it could, because this gent could be Ratty or Mole sat by the river. So I thought, right, I'm going to see if I can sneak him into this sketch. There was already quite a lot of material on the page, and it was going to be a bit of a fight. And if you watch me sketching, you'll notice the majority of my attention is probably 70% of the marks is in the area around the figure, because I'm trying to pull him out of what's already there. So you'll see me pushing shade, you'll see me adding light, and the light I'm adding is typically with neo colour white, which usually sits on most things, and sometimes it's with the Posca pen as well. And then everything else I just kind of let hang loose, keep it really ambiguous. And that way the scene becomes more atmosphere than description. The trees, the far bank and the sky, they're all there, they're all present. You can clock them and identify them, but they're not insisting on every part of their being described. Only the areas that might compete for attention got pushed back, keeping from pulling the eye away from the figure. So you'll see me put some cool blue over the pink on the right hand side of the page towards the end, as I decide I don't need that shout of pink over there. I need the pink to stay by the figure. I need the warmth to stay by the figure, but I also push that back a little bit as well, so it's not so shouty. So it was a real pull and push one, this one. He's made from the same materials as everything around him, and there's charcoal, there's Posca pen, there's oil stick, eco line, and a soft wolf pencil, all layered, all worked, and all working against like a tight resolution, but more towards a discovery of a figure sat there very quietly. So I'm hoping that you might find him immediately because I'm talking about it, or you might find him slowly because he's made of the same materials. Either way, he's found rather than placed. He's not stuck on top of a scene. And sometimes this is what happens when you're out sketching. You have an intention to catch something and start off with the best ideas, and then either through material disruption or opportunity, you change your mind. And that's all right. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to catch the opportunities that step into your composition, into your frame. So don't feel that you ever fail at a sketch because it's not what you originally intended. As long as you take the sketch to a point where you have understood where you want the viewer's eye to go, and you've worked to apply that logic to your sketch, that is a success. This type of sketch, I would probably use this composition and this idea again. I could very well imagine this on my concertina, on one of my concertina pages, if I change the figure to mole or ratty. So all is not lost from that changed intention. In fact, I've probably got a good idea banked.